Number one, why do I want to involve myself in discussing Tantra is there are two types of reasons. Western study of Tantra. I'm in the West and I understand Western academic parameters, but Western studies of Tantra has a different history than other fields of Indology. In the West, the first Westerner to study Tantra was John Woodruff. I mean, we can go historically to some insignificant or less significant figures. But John Woodruff was the first, an outsider trying to see, understand, but then he deeply loved and he became an insider. I trust the judgment of John Woodruff more than I trust the so-called gurus these days. Why? It's not about the skin tone. When we start learning something, we cross the boundaries of cultures. And what we are studying does not always remain outside of us. It changes us. When you read poetry all the time, you get tempted to write some poems because it comes to touch your heart. Let me give you another name, Agyahananda Bharati. Agyahananda Bharati, likewise, was one Westerner who went to India and then he just got shocked, surprised, overwhelmed, and then started practicing. I mean, practicing to the extent that sometimes I would be scared, like I'd be like, oh my gosh, that is going too far. I would not try those things, kind of practicing. And then came to the West, I think in Washington University in Seattle, he taught and gave many talks in academia. David Kinsley is another name who has written on Mahavidyas. Amazing guy, a great scholar who passed away. I was not fortunate enough to come when he was still alive, but he was like that. And I can continue giving the names of but they are all dead people. We want the living ones. So I can give you some names like Paul Mueller Ortega, who is, one of the known scholars in the field of Tantra, but also fully initiated practitioner in Siddha Yoga. Douglas Brooks, who went to South India, did his field work on Tripura Sundari, and then also became a practitioner, and he is teaching at Rochester University, and he also gives private lectures, and he runs. So there are many people like that type who have transcended the boundary of the East and the West. That is one reason. And why I think that it is better for me to involve myself a little bit in the journey of Tantra. And the second point is because Tantra is such a discipline that invites some kind of personal touch. It is like a I don't like the musicologists, coming and lecturing on music or music history, who don't like to, touch any musical instruments. It just doesn't feel great. Or, all the people, in the art department who talk about art, but don't know anything about art, like can't draw a single thing. That's kind of, that's great. I don't want to diminish others' knowledge, but that's just like the main thing is missing. It's like I invite you guys for dinner and then I offer you different menus, and then I let you choose which food you would like to talk about. I don't know. You would love that dinner party much because that's not what people are invited for supper. People want food. People don't want just to talk about the menu. Or if I give you the history of when the menu was written, and all this, why do we need that? So Tantra has something about personal transformation, personal experience. About myself, again, because I come from Nepal, and many people think that because people around there practice, so it's kind of common for them. Actually, not. Tantra is a very rare discipline, and only very few people do actually take it to practice, and some take it to far extreme. And so it's like how to find a balance. And so there is no real cultural insider. My father introduced me to Tantra first, without telling Tantra. I learned many mantras with my father. And then when I was 16, I met two of the most important persons in my life. They both taught me. One taught me philosophy, one taught me practices. So the guy who taught me practices always encouraged me to go and learn philosophy, but the guy who taught me philosophy thought that maybe I was wasting too much time with practices. He didn't reject it, but he thought I could be a better philosopher without mixing that much of practice. But in the long run, I am glad that I had two types of mentors in my life who trained me for decades. And my journey to Benares was only to extend what I was learning in Nepal. And that's all I have done in the West, is basically how to bring some of these ideas. And why I think, number one, I have already rejected the category of the East and the West and Tantra, non-Tantra, because these are social categories. Social categories are created for social governance. It's like a division, and then they make us think that I am a Westerner or you are an Indian, but there's some good ideas. I always tell my students, let's say, I don't know where sandwiches come from, but let us say you are offered a bad sandwich and then a really amazing Thai food. Do you just say, okay, because I'm an American, I prefer sandwich over, no matter how bad that is, over a good, amazing, I love Thai food, that's why, So, and I don't care if Nepalese people are offended when I say I prefer Thai food, I prefer 90% of the time Thai food over Nepalese food. That's what I am. So we live in a cosmopolitan society where all the old structures are dismantled, and we need to learn anything that is good from whatever the culture it is coming from. And we need to not learn, or we need to unlearn things that we do not see valuable. But then I have already spoken so much about the peripheries, but what is valuable for us or relevant for us to learn from Tantra? So that is where I'll give you just a couple pointers. And why just the pointers and not the intense Tantra? Number one, in 1 hour, I can't go too far. But another thing is, you guys are so brilliant. If you want to read it, you'll go and Google and read everything. My job is like, when I want to give you everything, you don't take it. When I want to say why you should learn these things, then if you feel like it, then you'll learn a lot on your own. And that is how I got that insight. I'm sorry, I'm apologizing here, because I got this great revelation. That was one of the gifts of this Corona. I never, ever wanted to teach online. When my university asked, they could give me incentive money, for if I were to teach online, I rejected because I'm an old school. And I like to really train students, to teach them like in front and look at their eyes and see if they are fully listening to me, if they are 100% with me. And, and then Then one thing good, I mean, there are many bad things, but one thing good is even if it is not the same, but there are many ways to inspire students, and the learning is possible in so many different ways. And I just have to say that I was wrong thinking we cannot teach online or long distance and things like that.